Dr. Amanda Rogers pressed her gloved hand against Europa's crystalline ice wall, watching the bioluminescent algae pulse beneath its surface. After 3 years of drilling through the moon's frozen crust, her team had finally reached the underwater caverns that had been taunting their sensors. But nothing had prepared them for what they'd found. Dr. Rogers. Michael Torres's voice crackled through her helmet comm. We're getting some crazy energy readings from the eastern chamber. Whatever's down there, it's not natural. She turned away from the wall, her boots crunching on the frost-covered ground. The cavern stretched before her, a cathedral of ice and alien stone that shouldn't exist this deep beneath Europa's surface. The team's lights caught crystalline formations that seemed to grow in impossible geometric patterns, their surfaces reflecting and refracting the beams in ways that defied physics. Define not natural. Michael, she replied, already moving toward his position. The rest of the team, 3 researchers and 2 safety officers, converged on their location from different points in the cavern. It's structured. The energy signature has a pulse, like a heartbeat, and it's strong, stronger than anything our equipment's rated to measure. We're talking about power output that would make a nuclear reactor look like a AA battery. Amanda quickened her pace, careful not to slip on the treacherous ice. They'd lost 2 good people in the first month of the expedition, and she wasn't about to let excitement override safety protocols. Everyone maintained distance protocols. Torres, get the portable shields up. Johnson, I want continuous atmospheric readings. The eastern chamber opened up before them like a mouth, its walls smooth and curved in a way that screamed artificial construction. Their lights caught something at its center that made Amanda's breath catch in her throat. A pillar of what looked like liquid metal rose from floor to ceiling, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed to move of their own accord. Holy shit, whispered Dr. Karen Martinez, the team's xenobiologist. That's not Europan. That's not even alien. That's human. Amanda finished, her voice barely a whisper. The patterns resolving themselves into script. Dozens of different writing systems, some alien, some horrifyingly familiar. And at the center of it all, a pod of some kind, its surface gleaming with the same liquid metal sheen as the pillar. The drilling accident happened moments later. Johnson, trying to get a better sensor reading, stepped onto what looked like solid ground. The ice gave way beneath him, revealing the hidden crevasse. Torres lunged to grab him, but the ice cracked further. Both men would have plunged into the abyss if the safety tethers hadn't caught them. As they pulled their shaken colleagues to safety, Amanda noticed something extraordinary. Where the ice had broken away, new script had been revealed. Older markings, crusted over with millennia of mineral deposits. She approached carefully, her hand shaking as she brushed away the crystalline growth. Get me a dating kit, she ordered, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. And someone contact Earth. Tell them. She paused, reading the proto-human script that no human should have been able to write 100,000 years ago. Tell them we found something impossible. The carbon dating confirmed it later that day. The pod and its mysterious occupant had been waiting in Europa's ice for over 100,000 years, long before humans had even developed written language. But the real shock came when they translated the first line of the repeating warning etched into the pillar's surface. When the crystal gods return from the void, release humanity's last guardian. Amanda stood before the pod, watching the liquid metal surface ripple and shift, wondering what kind of human being could have been so important that an advanced civilization would go to such lengths to preserve them. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to find out. And the answer would change humanity's understanding of both its past and its future forever. Dr. James Mitchell hadn't slept in 72 hours. The holographic displays surrounding his workstation pulsed with alien script, each character seeming to mock his efforts to understand them. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, he'd decoded 17 alien languages during his career. None had challenged him like this. Coffee. Dr. Lisa Parker appeared at his elbow, holding out a steaming cup. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she'd been keeping similar hours. Any progress with the Centaurian dialect? James took the cup gratefully, gesturing at the floating symbols. It's not just Centaurian. These warnings, they're written in languages that shouldn't exist yet. Some of them belong to species we haven't even met. Lisa leaned closer, frowning at the displays. That's impossible. The pod is 100,000 years old. Exactly. James pulled up a new hologram, showing a spiral pattern of text. This one. It's Proximan. We received our first transmission from them 8 months ago. But here it is, carved into a pod that's older than human civilization. The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Either someone had modified the pod recently, impossible given its location deep within Europa's ice, or they were dealing with something far beyond their current understanding of human history. A commotion from the adjacent lab drew their attention. Through the transparent walls, they could see Dr. Rodriguez gesturing excitedly at his own displays. James and Lisa hurried over. "You need to see this," Rodriguez said without preamble. He manipulated his holographic controls, and a new image appeared, a detailed scan of the pod's occupant. We finally got through the interference. Whatever's in there, it's human, mostly. The scan showed a human figure, but one augmented beyond anything their current technology could achieve. Crystalline structures were integrated with the nervous system, and the skeletal structure appeared to be reinforced with some unknown metallic alloy. The brain scan showed activity patterns that defied conventional neuroscience. "It's alive," Lisa whispered, staring at the readings. After all this time, James focused on the text scrolling alongside the scan data. "Wait, go back to the neural pattern analysis." Rodriguez complied, and James felt his blood run cold. The patterns weren't random, they were language. The being in the pod was processing information even in stasis, and that information was encoded in the same proto-human script they'd found on the pillar. It's not just a warrior, James realized. It's a library, a database, everything that civilization knew, everything they could preserve. They put it all into one person. The facility's alert system shows that moment to blare to life. Red warning lights bathed the lab in crimson as Admiral Chen's voice came over the intercom. "All research personnel report to the main briefing room immediately." This is not a drill. They found the briefing room packed with military officers and scientists. Admiral Chen stood at the front, her face grim as she gestured to the massive display behind her. It showed a series of objects approaching from the outer solar system, massive crystalline structures that seemed to bend space around them. "These objects appeared on our long-range sensors 15 minutes ago," Chen announced. "They're approaching at speeds we previously thought impossible. Initial analysis suggests they're artificial in nature, and their composition." She paused, looking directly at James. "Their composition matches traces found in the ice around the pod." James felt the blood drain from his face as the pieces clicked into place. The warnings, the advanced technology, the timing, it wasn't a coincidence. "The crystal gods," he murmured. "They're returning." An ensign burst into the room, clutching a tablet. "Admiral, the pod. It's activating." Something about the approaching objects triggered a response sequence. "We can't stop it." Chen's next words would echo in James's memory for years to come. Maybe we're not supposed to stop it. Maybe this is exactly what it was waiting for. As if in response, every screen in the facility suddenly displayed the same message, written in that ancient proto-human script that James had finally begun to understand. "The time has come. The Guardian awakens." The pod's surface rippled like mercury in a storm, its liquid metal shell responding to commands encoded 100 millennia ago. Dr. Amanda Rogers stood behind the reinforced observation shield with the rest of the science team, watching as ancient machinery hummed to life. Military personnel lined the walls, their weapons trained on the pod. A futile gesture, she thought, against technology this advanced. "Final encryption key accepted," announced the facility's AI. "Stasis field degrading at predicted rates. Cellular reintegration at 30% and climbing." James Mitchell pressed his hand against the glass, his eyes fixed on the scrolling data. The language, it's evolving in real time. The proto-human script is transforming, adapting itself to modern English. It's learning. A blinding flash of blue-white light forced everyone to shield their eyes. When they could see again, the pod's metallic surface had become transparent, revealing the figure within. He looked surprisingly young, perhaps in his early 30s, with close-cropped dark hair and features that somehow managed to suggest every human ethnicity while belonging to none of them specifically. Atmospheric seal releasing in 3, 2, 1. The pod split open like a flower blooming, releasing a rush of opalescent vapor. The figure inside opened his eyes, revealing irises that shifted color like oil on water. He moved with liquid grace, stepping out of the pod as if he'd only been asleep for hours rather than millennia. "I am Ethan Drake," he said in perfect English, though his accent carried strange undertones that made the primitive parts of their brains want to flee. "Your linguistic patterns have been absorbed and integrated. We can communicate freely." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "How is this possible? How can you speak our language?" Ethan's color-shifting eyes focused on her. "My neural architecture was designed to adapt. Even in stasis, I was processing, learning, preparing. Your global communications networks have been broadcasting the evolution of your languages. I listened. I learned." He paused, tilting his head slightly. "You've advanced faster than projected. This awakening comes ahead of schedule." "The crystal ships," Amanda interjected. "They triggered your revival sequence." The Vorkath. The name seemed to drop the temperature in the room by several degrees. They were not supposed to return so soon. Your civilization's technological progression must have attracted their attention earlier than anticipated. A lieutenant burst into the observation room. "Admiral, the unknown vessels have accelerated. They'll reach Jupiter's orbit in less than 48 hours. Ethan's expression shifted, his engineered features showing something close to concern. "They sense my awakening. The quantum signature of my pod's activation would be impossible for them to miss." He turned to face the assembly of Earth's top military and scientific minds. "You have questions. I understand. But time grows short, and there is much to prepare." "Prepare for what exactly?" Admiral Chen demanded. "War." Ethan's skin rippled, revealing circuits of light beneath that pulsed in complex patterns. "The Vorkath do not invade. They do not conquer. They consume. They transform all they touch into extensions of their crystalline network. Worlds, species, entire civilizations." He walked to the room's main display, raising a hand toward it. The screen responded to his presence, displaying images that made the hardened military personnel step back in shock. Planets being systematically disassembled, their materials and knowledge absorbed into vast crystalline structures. My civilization faced them before. We drove them back, but at a terrible cost. I carry within me the knowledge of how we fought them, how we survived, but more importantly, his eyes swept the room, meeting each person's gaze. I carry the knowledge of how we failed in the end, the mistakes we made, the weaknesses we didn't see until it was too late. The facility's lights flickered as distant sensors registered another surge of acceleration from the approaching fleet. Ethan's voice carried the weight of 100,000 years as he spoke again. "We have 2 days to ensure humanity does not share our fate. Shall we begin?" The holographic display in the Pentagon's secure briefing room showed Jupiter's massive form, its swirling storms dwarfed by the crystalline shapes, now moving past its orbit. Ethan Drake stood before the Joint Chiefs, his enhanced eyes reflecting the light of the projection as he manipulated it with subtle gestures. "This is not their main fleet," he explained, his voice carrying that strange harmonic that still made some officers uncomfortable. "These are hunter-seeders, scout vessels." The image zoomed in on one of the crystal ships, revealing its fractal geometry. Each one is approximately the size of your moon, composed of living crystal that processes matter and information simultaneously. General Matthews leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the hologram. "You're telling me those things are alive, in a way you wouldn't recognize as life." Ethan's fingers danced through the light, and the image transformed, showing the internal structure of a Vorkath vessel. They don't think as individuals. Each crystal ship is a node in their network, sharing a single consciousness that spans galaxies. Dr. Rogers, who had insisted on attending the briefing, pointed to strange formations within the vessel. "Those structures, they look almost like computer architecture." "Because that's exactly what they are." Ethan's expression darkened. "The Vorkath don't just consume matter. They absorb information, knowledge, culture, technology. Everything that made a civilization unique becomes part of their crystalline database. They consider it a form of preservation." The room fell silent as implications sank in. Admiral Chen was the first to speak. "How do we fight them?" Ethan waved his hand, and the hologram changed to show weapon schematics that made the military engineers in the room gasp. "My civilization developed quantum resonance weapons that could shatter their crystalline forms. I can help you adapt your current technology to approximate these weapons, but—" Warning klaxons cut him off. A lieutenant burst into the room. "Sir, the crystal ships, they've launched something toward Earth." The hologram shifted to real-time footage. Thousands of geometric shards, each the size of a small building, were breaking away from the main vessels. As they watched, the shards began changing shape, their crystalline surfaces flowing like liquid. "Probes," Ethan said grimly. "They're analyzing your defenses." His skin rippled with circuits of light as he interfaced with Earth's defense networks. "Your current weapons will be ineffective. The probes will adapt to any conventional attack within seconds." "How long do we have?" General Matthews demanded. "The probes will reach Earth's atmosphere in 6 hours. The main vessels." Ethan's eyes flickered with calculations. 40 hours, assuming they maintain current velocity." Dr. Rogers stepped closer to the hologram, studying the probe's transformation. "These patterns, they're similar to your pod's liquid metal surface." "Yes," Ethan's voice carried a weight of ancient grief. "Because they stole that technology from us. Everything they encounter, they analyze, adapt, and improve upon. It's why they're so difficult to defeat." Admiral Chen stood, her decision made. "What do you need to prepare our defenses?" "Access to your quantum computing facilities, your most advanced manufacturing plants, and—" Ethan paused, his engineered features showing something almost like uncertainty. "Trust. What I'm about to propose will seem impossible, perhaps even dangerous. But it's our only chance." The room's screens suddenly flickered with interference as the approaching probes began their first long-range scans of Earth. Ethan's eyes flared with colors no human had ever seen as he interfaced with the defense systems. "They're already learning," he announced. "Every second we delay gives them more data to analyze. We need to show them something they've never seen before, something they can't predict." "And what's that?" General Matthews asked. Ethan's response would change the course of human history. "We need to show them that humanity has surpassed even my civilization's achievements. We need to show them that you've done something even we couldn't do. You've learned to work together." Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes hadn't slept in 36 hours, but her hands remained steady as she manipulated the quantum computer's holographic interface. Beside her, Ethan Drake's skin rippled with circuitry as he fed ancient weapon schematics directly into the system. The lab around them hummed with desperate energy as scientists and military personnel raced to prepare Earth's defenses. "The quantum matrices aren't aligning," Rebecca muttered, watching another simulation fail. "We can't generate enough coherent energy to—" "You're thinking linearly," Ethan interrupted, his color-shifting eyes focused on the display. "The Vorkath expect that. Watch." His fingers danced through the hologram, rearranging the energy flow patterns. "Your quantum computers are more advanced than you realize. You've been using them to process information sequentially, but they're capable of so much more." The simulation transformed, energy patterns twisting in ways that made Rebecca's eyes hurt. That's impossible. The mathematical models don't support. A blinding flash filled the lab as the quantum computer suddenly synced with Ethan's neural patterns. Every screen in the facility lit up with new data as centuries of lost knowledge poured through the ancient warrior's crystalline augmentations. "Got it," Rebecca exclaimed, her fingers flying over the controls. The computer's processing power just increased by a factor of thousands. "How did you?" The facility's alarms screamed to life, cutting her off. Dr. Rogers burst into the lab, her face pale. "The probes breached our outer defense line. They're adapting to everything we throw at them." Ethan's expression hardened. "Show me." The main screen displayed Earth's orbital defense grid, engaging the crystalline probes. Conventional weapons, railguns, laser arrays, plasma torpedoes, all proved useless as the probes analyzed and adapted to each attack within seconds. Worse, they were learning, their crystalline forms evolving with each engagement. "Send the data from the successful quantum synchronization to all major defense facilities," Ethan ordered. "We don't have time to optimize it. Lieutenant Hayes, your quantum insight might have just saved humanity. Now we need to weaponize it." Rebecca's hands shook as she processed his words, realizing the weight of responsibility suddenly thrust upon her. The processing patterns, we could use them to generate interference fields, disrupt their ability to adapt. "Exactly." Ethan turned to Dr. Rogers. "How many quantum-capable facilities do we have worldwide?" 17, but coordinating them all in time will be impossible without working together, Ethan finished. "The Vorkath expect us to fragment, to protect individual territories. It's what my civilization did in the end. Our pride, our distrust, it doomed us." A new alert flashed across the screens. The main Vorkath fleet had accelerated again, their crystalline ships warping space itself in their haste to reach Earth. They detected the quantum synchronization experiment, and they recognized the threat it posed. "They're scared," Rebecca realized, studying the sensor data. They'd never seen anything like this before. "Because it's not just ancient technology anymore," Ethan said, his voice carrying a note of hope that hadn't been there before. "It's something new. The combination of your innovations and my knowledge has created something unprecedented." The lab's quantum computer suddenly pulsed with new energy as facilities around the world began linking together, creating a network of processing power that humanity had never achieved before. On the main screen, the first synchronized quantum pulse hit a cluster of crystal probes. Instead of adapting, they shattered, their fragments dissolving into harmless dust. "It's working," Dr. Rogers breathed. "But the main fleet will be here in less than 20 hours, Ethan finished grimly. "And they'll be ready for this tactic. We need something more, something they can't predict." He turned to Rebecca, his engineered features showing genuine respect. "Lieutenant Hayes, I need your quantum insight again. You see patterns even my augmented mind doesn't. Together, we might just have a chance." The quantum defense network's success against the probes should have felt like a victory. Instead, Ethan Drake stood in the facility's observation dome, his enhanced vision focused on a point far beyond Jupiter's orbit, his expression troubled. Dr. Amanda Rogers watched as circuits of light pulsed beneath his skin in increasingly agitated patterns. "Something's wrong," she said. It wasn't a question. "They're not attacking properly," Ethan replied, his voice carrying harmonics of ancient worry. "The Vorkath I remember. They were more aggressive. More." He stopped suddenly, his color-shifting eyes widening. No, it can't be." He spun toward the quantum interface terminal, his hands blurring as they interfaced with the system. The holographic display erupted with new data streams, focusing on the outer solar system. Lieutenant Hayes, who had been monitoring the defense grid, looked up from her station. "What are you searching for?" she asked, noting the increasing urgency in his movements. "Shadows," Ethan replied cryptically. "Echo patterns in the quantum field that." He froze, staring at the display. "There, in the Kuiper belt. The image zoomed in on what appeared to be ordinary ice and rock formations. But as Ethan adjusted the quantum sensors, a chilling truth emerged. What they had thought were normal stellar bodies were anything but natural. "Those aren't asteroids," Dr. Rogers whispered, understanding dawning on her face. "They're ships," Ethan confirmed grimly. "Hundreds of them. The real Vorkath fleet. They've been here all along, hibernating, waiting." His voice carried the weight of a terrible revelation. My stasis pod wasn't just preserving me. It was monitoring humanity's development, watching for specific technological markers. The same markers the Vorkath were waiting for. The observation dome's screens filled with new data as Ethan interfaced more deeply with Earth's sensor network. Hidden throughout the outer solar system were massive crystalline structures, perfectly camouflaged, some larger than Earth itself. "I don't understand," Lieutenant Hayes said, studying the readings. "Why wait? Why not attack us when we were less developed?" "Because they're farmers, not hunters," Ethan explained, his engineered features tight with ancient rage. "They wait for civilizations to reach a certain level of technological advancement, then harvest not just their resources, but their knowledge, their innovations. The more advanced the civilization, the more valuable the harvest." Admiral Chen, who had just entered the dome, absorbed this information with military precision. "And we've reached that level. Almost." Ethan gestured at the approaching fleet near Jupiter. "These aren't the vanguard of an invasion force. They're harvesters, coming to check if the crop is ready. But our quantum breakthrough, our ability to synchronize and innovate beyond their predictions." He paused, his eyes flickering with calculations. "We forced their hand. The hibernating fleet is awakening ahead of schedule." The dome's sensors suddenly screamed with alerts as massive energy signatures bloomed throughout the outer solar system. The dormant Vorkath ships were powering up, their crystalline forms shedding their rocky camouflage like snakes shedding skin. "How long?" Admiral Chen demanded. "The hibernating ships will take 12 hours to fully activate," Ethan replied. "The harvest fleet near Jupiter will arrive in 18. They're trying to coordinate a simultaneous attack from multiple vectors." Dr. Rogers stepped closer to the display, studying the patterns of the awakening ships. All this time, they'd been watching us, analyzing us. "Everything we've achieved, every breakthrough, has been cataloged and studied," Ethan finished. "But they made one critical mistake." His voice carried something new, not just determination, but a fierce pride in humanity's potential. "They expected you to develop like my civilization did. Instead, you've done something unprecedented. You've united, innovated, evolved in ways they never predicted." Lieutenant Hayes looked up from her quantum calculations, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. "And that's why you were really left here, isn't it? Not just to warn us or protect us, but to ensure we develop differently than your civilization did." Ethan's only response was a smile that carried 100,000 years of patient hope. The space around Earth blazed with impossible light as humanity's quantum defense grid came online. 17 facilities around the globe pulsed in perfect synchronization, their combined power reaching out to touch the void. Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes stood at her station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she coordinated the global network she'd helped create. "Vorkath harvest fleet approaching lunar orbit," the AI announced. "Hibernation fleet emerging from the Kuiper Belt. Estimated time to engagement, 3 minutes." Ethan Drake's form rippled with energy as he integrated himself deeper into Earth's defense systems. "They're attempting to establish their neural network," he reported, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that made the air vibrate. "Trying to link all ships into a single consciousness. That's their weakness," Rebecca announced suddenly, her eyes fixed on the quantum readings. "Look at the pattern fluctuations. Each ship has to maintain perfect crystalline harmony to share consciousness. If we could disrupt that harmony, we'd shatter their unity," Dr. Rogers finished, understanding dawning on her face, like an opera singer breaking a glass with the perfect frequency. Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the command channel. All defense stations, prepare for synchronized burst on my mark. Remember your training. Trust your teammates. Humanity stands together. The Vorkath ships filled the sky now, their crystalline forms refracting sunlight in ways that hurt human eyes. But where they expected to find a fragmented defense, they encountered something unprecedented. A united Earth, its quantum grid humming with power, drawn from the combined genius of ancient knowledge and modern innovation. First wave incoming, someone shouted. The crystal ships launched their attack, sending forth streams of geometric shapes that began transforming mid-flight, attempting to adapt to Earth's defenses. But humanity was ready. Execute Pattern Haze Alpha, Ethan commanded. Rebecca's quantum synchronization protocol sprang to life. Every defense station fired simultaneously, their energy weapons modulated to frequencies she calculated. The beams struck the Vorkath formations, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the crystalline ships began to vibrate. It's working, Dr. Rogers exclaimed, watching the sensor readings. The quantum resonance is disrupting their neural network. But the Vorkath were ancient and cunning. Their ships began to shift, changing their crystalline structure to adapt to the attack. That's when Ethan revealed humanity's true advantage. Initialize secondary protocol, he ordered, his engineered systems interfacing directly with the quantum grid. Show them what humanity has truly become. Around the globe, defense stations began firing in rolling sequences, each burst calibrated to a slightly different frequency. The attack wasn't just coming from military installations, civilian quantum research facilities, universities, even private sector quantum computers have been integrated into the network. Humanity's greatest minds had come together, contributing their unique insights to create an ever-changing defense that the Vorkath couldn't predict. The crystalline ships tried to adapt, but each time they changed their structure to counter one frequency, another would strike them from an unexpected angle. Their neural network, designed to process information in crystalline perfection, couldn't handle the chaotic brilliance of human innovation. They're breaking formation, Rebecca reported, her hands flying over the controls. The harmonic disruption is cascading through their fleet. The space around Earth lit up as Vorkath ships began to shatter, their perfectly ordered crystalline forms unable to maintain cohesion under the assault of humanity's unified but beautifully chaotic defense. Each broken ship sent quantum feedback through the enemy's neural network, creating a chain reaction of destruction. Ethan's voice carried both triumph and warning. This is only the beginning. The hibernation fleet will reach us in hours, and they'll have analyzed this defense. We need something more, something even I haven't thought of yet. He turned to Rebecca, his engineered features showing genuine respect. Lieutenant Hayes, I believe you have an idea. Her answer would determine the fate of two civilizations separated by 100,000 years of time. Actually, I have something better. I have a theory about why they really fear human consciousness. Human consciousness isn't just chaotic, Lieutenant Hayes explained, her hands manipulating the quantum display with practiced precision. It's quantum coherent in ways the Vorkath can't replicate. Their crystalline network tries to impose perfect order, but our minds. She glanced at Ethan, seeing understanding dawn in his color-shifting eyes. Our minds thrive on complexity. Of course, Ethan breathed, ancient knowledge connecting with modern insight. My civilization tried to match their perfection with our own. We engineered ourselves toward crystalline precision, but humanity. We embraced the chaos. Dr. Rogers finished. Every quantum computer in our network is modeled on human neural patterns. Imperfect, but infinitely adaptable. The facility shuddered as the hibernation fleet entered the inner solar system, their massive crystalline forms distorting space itself. But this time, Earth was ready. Admiral Chen's voice rang through the command channel. All stations, prepare to execute Hayes Protocol Beta. Synchronize your quantum cores with your local operators. Let them see what human consciousness can really do. Around the globe, quantum defense operators linked directly with their systems, not trying to impose order like the Vorkath, but letting their natural thought patterns ripple through the network. The result was beautiful chaos, a symphony of human consciousness translated into quantum energy. The Vorkath fleet encountered not just weapons, but the raw power of human thought. Every attempt to analyze and adapt failed because there was no pattern to predict, no order to unlock. Each human mind in the network contributed its unique signature, creating a defense that was as unpredictable as it was powerful. "They're trying to retreat," Rebecca announced, watching the sensor feeds. "Their neural network is collapsing under the quantum feedback." But Ethan's expression remained grave. "They'll return. Unless..." His engineered systems pulsed with new energy as an idea took form. "Lieutenant Hayes, Dr. Rogers, I need your help for one final adaptation." Understanding passed between them without words. Together, they began modifying the quantum network, preparing for something unprecedented. The Vorkath ships, their retreat blocked by the quantum storm of human consciousness, had no choice but to watch as their worst nightmare unfolded. "Now," Ethan commanded. The quantum network surged with power, but this time it carried more than energy. It carried memory, the combined knowledge of Earth's present and Ethan's past, the wisdom of two human civilizations separated by 100,000 years. The Vorkath, who had sought to harvest human knowledge, found themselves overwhelmed by its freely offered abundance. Their crystalline ships began to transform, not shattering this time, but changing. The rigid patterns of their neural network dissolved, replaced by something new, something that combined their crystal precision with human adaptability. "They're evolving," Dr. Rogers whispered in awe. Hours later, as the transformed Vorkath fleet retreated toward deep space, Ethan stood before the United Earth Council. His decision had already been made. "I will not return to stasis," he announced. "My civilization preserved me to ensure humanity's survival, but you've proven you've surpassed even our greatest achievements. Instead, I offer myself as a bridge, not just between past and present, but between humanity and those we once called enemies." The quantum network hummed with new purpose as humanity began establishing communication with the transformed Vorkath, their consciousness now a hybrid of crystalline order and human chaos. Earth's defenders had not only preserved their world, but had changed the very nature of their ancient enemy. "We gave them something they never expected," Rebecca said, standing beside Ethan as they watched the sunrise. "Not just knowledge or technology, but a new way of being." "Yes," Ethan agreed, his engineered features softening with something like pride. "My civilization tried to defeat them. Yours showed them how to change. That's humanity's true strength, not just surviving, but transforming everything you touch, even time itself." The quantum network pulsed one final time, carrying humanity's message to the stars. "We are here, we are strong, and we offer not conquest, but transformation." The age of the timeless defender was over. The age of human potential had begun.